Hi, dear students. Hi, James.
Hi, Dinara. Hi, students.
Yes, let's start with reading part. I'm very excited myself what we have here.
Yeah, exactly. So let's have a look at the reading this time. So, and we can see that it looks like it's excerpts from a variety. Oh, okay, so it looks like it's a variety of different topics. And in this one, you need to pick the headline, make the headline match the actual article, so the text. Okay, so the headlines that we've got, let's just have a look at those first. So we've got building materials, in other words, things you use to build a house or an office building or a school. The longest on earth, so we need the context to know specifically what that one is about. Safe travel as number 3. Designing a building and that's number 4. Number 5, invented by accident. That'll be interesting. So they didn't do it on purpose. And then number 6, comfortable living. 7, how did they do it? And 8, why seasons change. Let's, so I think the best method with this is always just read the text first, and then just immediately decide which one is the correct heading that matches that one. So let's look at the first one. Most of Africa's rural peoples use natural resources that are locally available for their homes. In grasslands, people typically use grass to cover the walls and roofs. In forested areas, they use hardwoods, as well as bamboo and raffia palm. Earth and clay are also major resources used in construction. In areas with few natural resources, people often live as nomads, moving from place to place. Instead of making permanent homes, they usually use simple shelters or tents made of animal skins and woven hair.
Interesting. So I'm myself from a nomadic culture. We do it.
Ah, okay. So what is the typical sort of material that you use for a house?
In the past, they used woven. So they used woven hair. They cut sheep's wool and make their very thick textiles and cover it tents, let's say. They are called yurts.
Yeah. Ah, okay. Yes, I see. Interesting. Okay, so they shear the sheep first, and then they and then they use the wool. And that's, well, I mean, it's good, I suppose, particularly, you know, as in a country where there's very intense winters. So because obviously sheep's wool, it does keep you very warm. So it's a good material to use. Yeah, so in this case, I think this one is quite clear, personally. It's building materials. So because they are specifically talking about what people use to build houses. So that one's clear for me. So that's 1. Yeah, but it's fascinating. It is fascinating, though. So yeah, exactly. So let's look at the next text. So B, an architect must consider how a structure will be used and by whom. An apartment building, a palace, a hospital, a museum, an airport, and a sports arena all have different construction requirements. Another factor is the ideas that the structure should communicate. For example, some buildings are made to impress people with a display of power and wealth. Others to make everyone feel welcome. Other things to consider are the location and surrounding environment, including weather and the cost of materials. So this one, I would say, is designing a building. Exactly, because it's talking about what an architect has to consider and what they need to think about. Let's look at C. Did you know that an 11-year-old child first created the popsicle? The boy's name was Frank Epperson. In 1905, Frank left a mixture of water and powdered soda out on his front porch by mistake. It also contained a stir stick. That night, fortunately for Frank, the temperatures fell to a record low. As a result, he discovered the substance had frozen to the stick, and a frozen fruit-flavored ice treat was created. He decided to call it the Epsicle, which was later patented, you can also say, by him and named as Popsicle. Okay.
Is it something like Chupa Chups?
Yeah, so I think it's like a sort of ice lolly, basically. So, you know, where you have the, so I would think of that as the ice lolly. I think Popsicle, I believe it's a brand, you know, so it's exactly. So you've got that, it's like that, but it's ice. So because the Chupa Chups, those ones are what we call lollipops.
I see.
So they're on a stick and they're a sort of hard, you know, sweet, basically, or candy that is room temperature that you suck, that obviously you suck, and you know, and that gets smaller. Whereas this one is the ice version, so it's what we call an ice lolly as a general term. Exactly. So, and this one is going to be invented by accident because. As the story goes, and to be honest, personally, I absolutely love inventions by accident. I think that, you know, so you know, so they actually discovered, I think it was anesthetic by accident as well. It was just some medical students, you know, accidentally knocked themselves out in the 1840s, I think it was. So that was for anesthetic, you know, what we use for operations, you know, so we go to hospital so we don't feel anything. So, yeah, this is going to be number 5, invented by accident. Yeah. As Earth goes around the sun, the North Pole points to the same direction in space. For about 6 months every year, the North Pole is tilted towards the sun. During this time, the Northern Hemisphere gets more direct sunlight than the Southern Hemisphere and more hours of daylight. During the other 6 months, the North Pole is tilted away from the sun. When the Northern Hemisphere gets the most sunlight, it experiences spring and summer. At the same time, the Southern Hemisphere gets autumn and winter. So, yeah, this is quite clear for me why seasons change.
Also, James, you know that the most difficult, I think, you know, of course, the most difficult foreign students, they find listening part.
I see.
And what advices could you give to our students to improve their listening skills?
I think the best thing that you can do, for example, where there are different ways to do this. So you can listen, obviously, to podcasts. You can you can watch some of your favorite films or series in English. Another factor that can work quite well as well is if you listen, I've heard this from some people, is listening to an audio book and reading the book at the same time. So you get used to hearing the words and then you're following it with the book, you know, as you get more comfortable, you don't need to use that as much. But the most important thing when you're watching things to improve your listening, then the most important thing is don't try to, if you're going to use subtitles, try to use English subtitles, because if you read them in your own language, so if you read Russian subtitles, for example, you'll be distracted by the subtitles.
Yeah.
On top of that, there's a variety of different podcasts. So I know the BBC Learning English website. I've known a lot of people who use that one. They have 6 Minute English, for example. That's good practice. There are also, you know, YouTube videos. And so there are YouTube videos, of course, as well. You can and you can get podcasts on a variety of websites. So I would say just keep it varied, but I think a good way to practice and is do something that you enjoy. So if you like science, for example, then listen to a science podcast, because then it's something interesting and you're also practicing, so yeah, exactly. So that would be my advice.
Thank you, James. And guys, please write down in the comments below what you do to improve your listening skills. For example, we have teenage students who watch vloggers on topics they are interested in. It helps them to become good listeners and later on to speak fluently in English. Thank you in advance, guys. So help each other in the comments, please. That's why we also make these YouTube videos for you.
Yeah, excellent. Another factor I just wanted to say with so going back to when you have this sort of reading exercise, I know it sounds obvious, but don't forget to cross out the
answers.
The answers that have been done already, because if you do that, then you can see what the list is.
Yes, leftovers.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was 8. Why seasons change. So we've got 3 more. In southern Peru, there is an isolated plateau where the wind almost never blows. Here, around the year 400 to 650 AD, the people of the Nazca culture created the famous Nazca lines by removing the red stones covering the ground so that the white earth beneath was visible. These Nazca lines are actually portraits of animals such as monkeys, birds, or fish. It is a mystery how such a primitive civilization could create such artwork with precision when they had no means of viewing their work from the air.
I hate when cultures, they are called primitive. So
yes, yeah. I was going to say the same thing. It's because it's like so that there's very advanced because they as in it just feels a bit colonial. That's the language. It's very arbitrary as well. So as in I know that I actually heard, to give an example. So there are certain ethnic groups in Australia where they do not use terms like left or right, or so instead what they do is they use north, south, east, and west.
Yes, in China they do the same.
Yeah, so it's fascinating that so that you learn to go. No, we need to go north, and then you know exactly where north is. I think it's fascinating. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that one is terms like that, they are quite unpleasant. Yeah, definitely. So exactly. So let's have a look then. So that one was I would say, how did they do it? Because they're wondering how they did it specifically. There's also a couple actually in the UK that are in England. You can see a couple. So there's a very famous one there's one called the White Horse. Where that is, it's somewhere in the southeast of England. And then there's another one which is the Cern Abbas giant in the southwest of England. So and it's a giant with the club. So that there are these sort of you do see these ground drawings or whatever they're called in quite a few places on Earth. So it is interesting as in how
for me,
what inspired them. Is also interesting.
It's obvious that they were familiar with mathematics and engineering. That's how they did it.
Yeah, exactly. That's certainly.
And we already cannot say that they are primitive. So idiotic.
No, exactly. So exactly. It's like because that would because that would absolutely involve quite a bit of work and tradition on their part and knowledge. So it is a bit ridiculous, absolutely. So as in what inspired them to do it is another interesting point, though. Why did they do it? Do these have religious significance? Do they have, cultural significance? Was this to honor somebody who had died? But of course, because they lived 1,500 years ago, it's very difficult to, you can only speculate why.
Yeah.
So let's go on to F then. So Antarctica is, which is the southernmost and fifth largest continent, does not have 24-hour periods divided into days and nights. In the South Pole, the sun rises on about September the 21st and moves in a circular path until it sets about March the 22nd. This day, or summer, is 6 months long. During this period, if the weather conditions are good, the sun can be seen 24 hours a day from March the 22nd until September the 21st. The South Pole is dark, and Antarctica has its night or winter. Okay.
Cool. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that must be the South Pole precisely. As in precisely at that point, that it's either dark or light for 6 months a year. Yeah, so that one would be then the longest on Earth, I would have thought, because it's the longest days and nights. So let's go for the next one. So any ship that hits an iceberg will be damaged. The most famous iceberg in history sank the Titanic, a ship traveling in the northern Atlantic Ocean on April the 15th, 1912. The ship's side scraped the iceberg, which tore holes in the hull. Within 3 hours, the ship was at the bottom of the ocean. After the loss of the Titanic, several nations worked together to establish the International Ice Patrol. Today, the US Coast Guard runs the patrol, which warns ships about icebergs floating in Atlantic shipping routes. Interesting. So that one, if you've been crossing them out, then you know the answer already. So, that one would be, let's have a look. I've seen what they've done. They've included data. Yeah, so it's 7 texts, but 8 headings. So safe travel, that's got to be safe travel for that one.
And they do not mention anything about comfortable living, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's nothing mentioned about that.
Guys, I've noticed that thankfully to studying different languages constantly, my memory is pretty good. I think you feel the same, James, because you also speak many languages. So because I remember when I was preparing for this Russian state exam when I was at school, it was very difficult for me to remember the headings and which headings I already used. And now without crossing them out, I remember this information.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so it's not just a useful skill, it's also really good for your brain's health. So it's good. Yeah.
Thank you, James. Everything was very interesting, clear. I'm very grateful that you help us to make these YouTube lessons. The first and the main aim of our lessons is, guys, to spread knowledge, to make it affordable, free for you, and more people to be able to speak English on at least a speaking level. Thank you, James. Guys, we wait for you on our social media. There you'll find more very useful information, and you'll be able to take part in our free trial classes and even get certificate for 1 month to study at our school for free. Looking forward to the next lesson. James, bye guys.
Bye. Take care. Good luck.